My parents gave my 8-year-old son a pair of socks for his birthday and said, "The worst gift for the worst grandson." My kid cried. Everyone laughed. 20 minutes later I gave them a gift they'll never forget. They ruined his birthday. My parents, his own grandparents, managed to take what should have been the happiest day of my son's year and turn it into something he'll probably never forget, and not for good reasons. He turned 8 last Saturday. We had a little party in our backyard. Nothing extravagant, just a few friends from school, some cousins, pizza, balloons, cake, and the usual noisy chaos that comes with kids and sugar. My son had been counting down the days for weeks. He even helped decorate. Told me it was going to be the best birthday ever. It wasn't. My parents showed up late, of course. They always do. They walked in acting like they were royalty. My mom barely looked at my son. My dad gave him a gift bag that looked like it had been reused from someone's retirement party. My son took it politely and opened it right there in front of everyone. Socks. A 2-pack of plain gray socks. No card. No note. No explanation. And then my dad said it loud enough for everyone to hear. The worst gift for the worst grandson. And they laughed. My mom, my brother, his wife, all of them. They thought it was funny. My son didn't. He stood there holding the socks for a few seconds, trying to understand if it was a joke. Then he quietly put them down and left. Just walked inside without saying a word. He didn't come back out. I sat there frozen, watching my family laugh at my kid on his birthday. No one followed him. No one cared. They just kept eating, drinking, talking about God knows what. My brother made a joke about how my son was sensitive, just like his mother. My dad nodded like it was a fact. My mom said something about how not all kids can be winners. And that's when it clicked. They didn't respect my son. They never had. He wasn't loud like his cousins. He didn't have medals or straight A's or trophies they could brag about. He was kind, quiet, curious. That wasn't good enough for them. But what they didn't realize was that he wasn't the only one they were mocking. They were mocking me too, for how I raised him, for the kind of mother I chose to be. I didn't say anything right away. I let 20 minutes pass. Then I went inside, opened my desk drawer and came back with a folder. Dropped it right on the table in front of my brother. He opened it. It was a copy of his lease agreement. And a signed letter from me officially ending all financial support. Rent, utilities, groceries, car insurance, everything. Gone. For over a year I'd been sending him nearly $3,000 a month so he, his wife, and their 2 kids could live in a decent apartment, keep the lights on and put food on the table. Not anymore. Everyone stopped talking. My brother just stared at the paper. My dad asked what it was. My mom looked like she was trying to process it. No one said a word. I didn't offer a speech. I didn't owe them that. I just walked back inside, checked on my son and asked him if he wanted everyone to leave. He said yes. So I went back outside and told them all the party was over. They needed to leave. They looked shocked. My dad asked if I was serious. My mom tried to pretend it was all just a misunderstanding. My brother sat there like a man who just realized his credit card had been canceled mid-purchase. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I asked them to leave again. This time louder. Only my son's friends and his godfather stayed. He had cake. My son eventually came back down and played with the Lego set Sean gave him. It didn't fix everything, but he smiled a little. And that was enough. That day I stopped being the bank. I stopped being the quiet daughter who paid for everything while they made me and my kid feel small. They gave my son socks and humiliation. I gave them a reality check. After they left my house that day things went quiet, but only for about 24 hours. Then the calls started. First it was my brother calling over and over. When I didn't pick up he switched to texts. Screenshots of unpaid bills, some half-angry, half-begging messages, and finally a voice note where he said I was acting insane over a pair of socks, and that I was ruining his kids' lives because I couldn't take a joke. I didn't respond. Not a word. Then my mom texted. She asked if we could talk calmly like adults. Said I'd overreacted, and that my son wasn't even crying that badly. As if that made it okay. Later that night I got a longer message from her saying, "We didn't mean anything cruel. He's just not like the others. He needs to toughen up. You shelter him too much." It wasn't personal. Not personal. She called my kid the worst grandson and laughed about it in front of a room full of people. On his birthday. Gave him socks. And then watched him walk away with zero concern. And now she was telling me it wasn't personal. They didn't care about him. He wasn't the golden grandkid who wins spelling bees or plays sports or gets all the attention at Thanksgiving. He wasn't their favorite. Never had been. He was quiet, sensitive, thoughtful. The kind of kid who remembers your birthday and makes a handmade card with glitter glue and lopsided hearts. But that wasn't enough for them. Never would be. What really caught them off guard though was when it sank in that I hadn't been bluffing. My brother tried to transfer money to the landlord the following week. He couldn't even cover a third of the rent. He called me in a panic. Left another voicemail saying, "You can't do this. I have 2 kids." Then he blamed me for not giving him a heads up, as if 14 months of paying his rent wasn't enough of one. A few days later I got a call from the landlord. He wanted to confirm that I was officially pulling out as the lease guarantor. I told him I was. He asked if I was sure. I said yes. He sighed and told me he'd be starting the eviction process at the end of the month. I hung up and went to check on my son, who was sitting on the floor in his room building a spaceship out of Legos. He looked up and smiled. It was small but real. 2 days after that, my parents showed up at my door. Uninvited. I opened it and found them standing there, looking stiff and uncomfortable, like they weren't sure who should speak first. My mom took the lead. She said they were worried about the family falling apart. That I was letting a childish misunderstanding spiral into something that would hurt everyone. My dad didn't say anything. He just stood behind her, staring at a spot near his shoes. I asked her a question. "Do you remember what you gave him?" She blinked. Tried to play dumb. "Socks," I said. "You gave my kid socks for his birthday." And called him the worst grandson. Then laughed when he left the room. She said I was being emotional. I said they needed to leave. She asked if I really planned to leave my brother and his family without a place to live. I told her it wasn't my problem anymore. She asked if I expected them to pick up the slack. That was when I smiled for the first time during the conversation. I didn't answer. They left shortly after that. No hugs. No fake apologies. Just silence. By the end of the week, my brother's eviction notice was official. 30 days. No extensions. His wife texted me from a number I didn't recognize, saying they had nowhere else to go. I still didn't reply. They could go to the people who thought it was funny to humiliate a child. They could move in with the best grandparents ever. The same ones who clapped when my son opened a pack of socks and tried to pretend that cruelty was comedy. The storm was coming. And they were just starting to feel the wind. They moved into my parents' house 3 days before the eviction date. I didn't get a call or a warning or even a smug, "We figured it out." I found out through a cousin's Instagram story. My brother was in the background carrying a trash bag of clothes, and one of the kids was dragging a tablet charger across the driveway. That was their grand entrance. The caption said, "Family sticks together, red heart." Yeah. They stuck together like gum on the bottom of a shoe. I didn't say a word. Let them have their little reunion parade. I knew exactly how this was going to play out. My parents thought they were being heroes. Martyrs. They told everyone they were stepping up to help in a time of need. My mom even posted a photo of the living room, rearranged with an air mattress and fold-out table, like they were proud of what they'd done. She wrote, "We do what we must. Family first." Nobody mentioned me. The person who'd actually been carrying this family for over a year. At first they acted like it was all under control. My dad told one of my uncles that it was just temporary. That my brother was looking for work and they'd be out in a month. That the kids were a joy to have around. Everyone smiled and nodded. Played along. But 2 weeks in, the cracks were already showing. My brother wasn't looking for work. He was playing video games. Every time someone tried to bring up money or responsibility, he'd make a joke or change the subject. His wife spent her days watching TikToks and scrolling Facebook while the kids trashed the house. My parents had no idea what they'd signed up for. The grandkids they'd claimed were such a joy were now smearing peanut butter on the walls, arguing over tablet time, and waking up at 6 a.m. every day like tiny human alarm clocks. My dad started losing his temper. My mom started stress cleaning. And yet, somehow it was never their fault. It was mine. Mine. I started getting subtle messages. My mom texted asking if I could recommend a good grocery delivery service, and mentioned how expensive things were with 4 extra mouths to feed. My brother sent me a casual, "Hey, do you know anything about setting up government benefits? Just curious." Then came the not-so-subtle ones. My dad called me one night and said something like, "You know, this isn't sustainable long-term. Maybe you could help out just a little for the kids' sake." I told him I already had. For 14 months. For nearly $3,000 a month. I had helped. I had funded their entire household while being mocked by all of them. While watching my son get ignored, laughed at, then publicly humiliated on his birthday. He went quiet. Then mumbled something about how things were different now. I agreed. Things were very different. Because now it wasn't my problem anymore. By week 4 my mom had a meltdown. Not to me, of course. She called her sister and cried about how ungrateful my brother and his wife were. How the kids were wild, how she hadn't had a moment to herself, how the house was chaos. That same night I got a message from my brother's wife asking if she and the kids could come over just to visit, because they were feeling a little overwhelmed. I never replied. They had made their choice. They moved in with the people who laughed at my son. Let them enjoy each other. One afternoon while we were at the grocery store, my son asked if we could get extra snacks, just in case my cousins come over. I crouched down and gently asked him if he wanted to see them. He shook his head and said, "Not really. They never want to play with me. They just take my stuff." I didn't say much after that. I just grabbed the snacks he wanted and added a few more. He'd been through enough. That night while we were eating dinner, he looked up from his plate and asked, "Do you think they miss us?" I told him maybe, but not in the way that mattered. Because what my family missed wasn't us. They missed what we gave them. Money, support, silence. And now that all of that was gone, they were stuck with each other. Exactly the way they wanted. It all fell apart faster than I expected. I thought maybe it would take a few months, but it only took 6 weeks. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger. I hadn't heard from them in days, which was unusual considering the drama level they usually operate on. Then out of nowhere my dad texted me. Just 2 words. "Call me." I didn't. The next day my mom left a voicemail. She said there'd been a serious family issue, and it was time we had a grown-up conversation about reworking our arrangement. I just stared at my phone and played the message again because I couldn't believe she still called it that. An arrangement. Like I was a bank they could reopen after burning it down. I didn't respond. But someone else filled me in. One of my cousins, Erica, lives a few blocks from my parents and hears everything. She called me later that week and said, "You're not gonna believe this, but the cops were at your parents' house." I sat down. Why? Apparently my brother and his wife got into a full-blown screaming match around midnight. Something about bills, the internet being shut off, and the fact that my brother still hadn't even applied for a job. He blamed her. She blamed him. One of the kids woke up, started crying, and my dad tried to step in. That went well for about 3 seconds. My brother turned on him, yelling that none of this would have happened if I hadn't cut him off. He actually said loud enough for the neighbors to hear that I ruined the family because I was selfish and overprotective of a weak kid. A neighbor called the police thinking it was domestic violence. So now there's a police report tied to my parents' address. Not an arrest, but a documented warning. And since the kids were involved, things got complicated fast. 2 days later I got a new message from my mom. It was longer, full of flowery language about family and healing and how they'd all reflected on the events of the past few weeks. She said things were rough, and that the temporary living situation had become stressful. She asked if I'd consider restarting support payments, just until they could get back on their feet. And then came the insult buried in desperation. She said if I agreed, they'd be open to discussing future family matters, including, I kid you not, inheritance arrangements. Like I was supposed to be lured back into their dysfunction with the promise of money I never asked for. The same people who couldn't even give my son a decent birthday present were now offering me an imaginary payout in exchange for saving them from the mess they created. I didn't reply. The silence must have driven them insane because 3 days later, I got a message from my brother's wife. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a request. She wrote, "Can we drop the kids off sometime this weekend? They miss their cousin." That was the moment I realized they were losing control. They were trying to re-enter through my son. They thought I'd cave. That I'd say yes for the kids' sake. I didn't. Instead, I showed my son the message and asked what he thought. He said, "They're only nice when they want something." 8 years old. And he already understood them better than I ever wanted him to. Then something I never saw coming happened. Erica called again and said Child Protective Services had shown up at my parents' house. CPS. Someone had made an anonymous report. It wasn't me. I hadn't spoken to anyone official. But the noise, the police call, the fights, the fact that 4 people and 2 kids were crammed into a house that was already dysfunctional. Someone decided enough was enough. No one was taken away, but CPS made it clear. This setup wasn't going to work. They needed a long-term plan. And fast. Suddenly it wasn't just about money or convenience anymore. It was about legal oversight. Accountability. Government forms. Caseworkers. My brother couldn't argue his way out of it. My parents couldn't guilt-trip a state agency. My mom tried to spin it to family as just a standard check-in, but I knew better. They were under a microscope now. And for the first time in their lives, they were the ones answering questions. Not me. Not my son. It started with the banana bread. 10:30 in the morning, I'm still in my robe, cleaning up cereal off the counter, and there's a knock at the door. I peek through the peephole. It's my mom. Holding a Tupperware container like this was just a casual neighborly visit. Like she hadn't mocked my kid in front of a crowd and watched him walk out of his own birthday party in tears. I opened the door just a crack. She smiled like nothing had happened. She held out the container. Said it was banana bread. Your favorite, she added like she expected me to melt into gratitude because she remembered something I liked 20 years ago. I didn't take it. He started with the small talk. Weather, holidays, how fast kids grow. I just stood there. Finally, when it was clear I wasn't going to pretend for her comfort, she got to the point. They needed help. She said they were in a difficult situation. That things at home were hectic. That the kids weren't adjusting well. That my brother was still looking for work, even though we both knew he hadn't submitted a single application. She said CPS was breathing down their necks now, asking questions, scheduling follow-ups. That they were told to show progress or risk escalation. And then she said the phrase that almost made me laugh out loud. We'd like to revisit the possibility of you helping out again. Helping out. That's what they were calling it now. The thousands of dollars I paid. The groceries I sent. The rent. The bills. The things I skipped for myself and my son so they could survive while still judging us from the comfort of their free ride. She went on to say that she and my dad had talked about it, and they were willing to give me partial control over some future assets. The house, possibly a share of investments, the family inheritance. I told her I wasn't interested in buying back their respect. She said it wasn't about that it was about keeping the family together. I asked her which part she wanted me to keep together. The part where they insulted my son or the part where they laughed when he walked away. She said she didn't come here to fight. I said I didn't either. Then I told her she had two choices. Figure it out or keep waiting for a miracle that's never coming. She stood there for a while. I could see it. The cracks in her face, the way she was holding herself like someone who hadn't slept properly in weeks. And maybe for a moment I believed she finally understood what she'd done. But then she did what she always does, she pushed the guilt button. She asked me if I really wanted to punish the kids. Said they were innocent. Said it wasn't their fault. I told her that's exactly why I wasn't helping. Because if I did, if I paid rent again or bought groceries or stepped in, then nothing would change. My brother would keep coasting, my parents would keep enabling, and those kids would grow up thinking that chaos is normal and consequences don't exist. And then I shut the door. She didn't ring it again. But I knew that wasn't the end. That night my dad called. He never calls unless things are serious. He didn't say hello. He said, "We need your help." I didn't say anything. He kept going. He said they were drowning. That they hadn't realized how much I'd been doing until it stopped. That my brother had no plan, no job, no clue how to be a parent. That his wife had given up entirely. That the kids were out of control. That their home felt like a war zone. And then quietly he admitted something I never thought I'd hear from him. He said, "We were wrong." He didn't say it about the money or about taking advantage of me. He meant everything. About how they treated my son. About what they said. About how they dismissed his feelings, his kindness, his quiet little heart. He said they thought they were helping him by pushing him to toughen up. I told him they weren't helping. They were hurting. He said he knew. Then he asked, gently, if I'd be willing to start supporting them again. Just until they got back on their feet. I didn't get angry. I didn't argue. I just said, "I think you should ask your favorite grandson." And I hung up. The next day a card showed up in our mailbox. No return address. Just my son's name on the front in my mother's handwriting. Inside was a note. No money, no stickers, no gift card. Just this. "We're sorry we hurt your feelings. We miss you. Hope you forgive us someday." He read it once, shrugged and slid it into one of his books. Didn't even ask me what it meant. Didn't want to talk about it. Just moved on with his day like someone who had finally let go of something heavy. That weekend I took him to the park. Bought him a new kite. He ran around with it for hours. I watched him laugh and fall and get up again like any normal 8-year-old should. Free. Light. Unbothered. My parents, meanwhile, were stuck in their house with a man-child, 2 wild grandkids, a terrified social worker on speed dial, and a future inheritance no one cared about. They had made their choice. Now they were living in it. It's been 3 months since I closed that door, since I walked away for good. 3 quiet, steady, peaceful months. Strange, how calm life can feel when no one is leeching off you. When your phone isn't buzzing with guilt trips or financial emergencies dressed up as quick favors. When your own home finally feels like yours again. It wasn't instant, but day by day things got easier. The first thing I noticed was how much money I actually had. It sounds ridiculous, but I'd been so deep in survival mode, always covering someone else's disaster, that I never stopped to look. The first month I didn't send that $2,900 to my brother's rent. I bought my son a new bike. Nothing fancy. Just one with flames on the side and those chunky tires he'd always stop to stare at in the store. He rode it every day for 2 weeks straight. Then we started saving. Little things. I opened a separate account, called it the Fun Fund. Every time we'd normally skip something because of money, I put it there instead. It added up faster than I expected. By the end of the second month, I looked at my son over dinner and said, You want to go to Disneyland? He dropped his fork. We went the following weekend. Just the two of us. I booked a cheap hotel nearby, packed snacks and made a spreadsheet to keep it affordable. But we went. And we stayed until the park closed. He got to hug Spider-Man, ate 3 churros and fell asleep on my shoulder during the fireworks. It was the first time in years I cried from happiness. Meanwhile, my parents were sinking. Word got around. They'd pulled my brother out of that disaster apartment, swore they could handle it, and now they were stuck. I didn't hear every detail, but I heard enough. They tried to apply for emergency assistance, but with my brother being unemployed and refusing to work with CPS, everything stalled. Apparently the house was a mess. Screaming matches were a regular thing. My dad started sleeping in the basement. My mom got shingles from stress. One of the neighbors put in a noise complaint. And still they kept pretending like they had it under control. I got a call from my aunt not long ago. She asked if I was sure I didn't want to revisit things, now that everyone had learned their lesson. I told her my son learned his lesson too, that not everyone who shares your blood deserves a place at your table. She didn't call back. And then last week the part one didn't expect happened. My son got another birthday card. It wasn't his birthday. It wasn't anyone's. No return address again. Just a single card in an envelope with his name. Inside there was no message, just a $5 bill and a drawing of a heart. Like. Almost desperate. He showed it to me and asked if he could buy a candy bar with it. I told him he could buy 5. And that was that. No emotional reunion. No forgiveness speech. Just the quiet understanding that we had moved on. That we had built something better. That our life, just the two of us, was enough. Now when we go to the store I don't look over my shoulder anymore. When I get a call from an unknown number I don't panic. I've blocked everyone who needs blocking. I've said no enough times that they finally stopped asking. We've gone to the beach twice since Disneyland. Took a road trip up the coast. Ate way too much ice cream. He's asked to learn piano. I bought a keyboard off Facebook Marketplace and signed him up for lessons. I spend money on him now. On me. Not on people who treat kindness like a weakness. My parents tried to control everything. The family. The narrative. Me. But in the end they lost everything they thought they had control over. And the best part? They did it to themselves.
Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, don't forget to share, like and subscribe. See you in the next one.